There is a stirring in the spirit realm, a trembling that heaven cannot ignore, and it has reached the ears of the Archangel Michael, who stands not only as a protector of God's people, but as a revealer of hidden truths when betrayal festers in the shadows. And today, he comes not with condemnation, but with clarity, because there is someone in your life, someone you once trusted deeply, someone you let behind the spiritual veil of your heart, someone you confided in during your most vulnerable moments. And though you believed they were safe, though you believed your secrets were sacred in their hands, the truth is beginning to surface now, not as a gentle revelation, but as a divine warning, because they are not keeping your confidence. They're leaking it subtly, strategically, feeding your private words into the mouths of others as casual conversation, pretending concern while planting distortion, all while wearing the same mask of loyalty they wore when they earned your trust. And Archangel Michael is sounding the alarm not to shame you, but to shield you, to awaken your discernment, to pull you from the emotional fog the enemy tried to wrap around you by using someone close, someone comfortable, someone familiar, because this is not just about gossip. It's spiritual sabotage, and the danger lies not only in what they've said, but in why they're saying it, because in the spiritual realm, words are weapons. And when secrets are exposed outside the presence of love, they become curses spoken into rooms where you cannot defend yourself. But God is stepping in now, not to erase what was spoken, but to intercept its power, to reverse the curses, to confuse the plans of those who meant you harm, because you are his anointed, and no tongue, no whisper, no betrayal disguised as friendship will prosper over the destiny he has assigned to you. And you may be wondering, why would they do this? Why would someone I loved, someone I trusted, turn my vulnerability into their entertainment? And the answer is simple. Envy disguised as closeness, bitterness pretending to be support, and most dangerously of all, a soul unhealed that fed off your pain, not to help it, but to use it. And Archangel Michael is exposing them now, because the damage ends here. Because you've entered a season where heaven refuses to let false alignment contaminate your promise. And so you will feel the nudge to distance yourself, the discomfort in conversations that once felt safe, the sudden spiritual exhaustion after speaking with them, the dreams that leave you unsettled, the random headaches, the forgotten joy when you're in their presence. All signs from heaven that the connection is no longer protected, and it is time to close the door, not in anger, but in wisdom, because what God is building in you next requires secrecy, sanctity, and spiritual insulation, and not everyone who is part of your healing is meant to witness your rising. Not everyone who held your tears is equipped to handle your anointing, and some only loved you broken because your brokenness made them feel whole. And now that you're healing, they are leaking, because healed you is a threat to who they pretended to be. And Archangel Michael wants you to know this is not your fault, that trusting them was not a mistake, but a lesson. And even the secrets they've shared cannot undo what God is about to do in your life. Because heaven has a way of using even betrayal as a platform for greater blessings. And though it hurts now, though it stings to know the voice that once said, "I'm here for you," is now echoing your wounds in rooms you've never entered, there is nothing that has been revealed that God won't redeem. Nothing that has been spoken that God can't silence, and no lie that can outlast the truth of your calling. And if you hold your peace, heaven will fight for you, And Archangel Michael is already sending angels to scatter the words, to confuse the plans of the one who betrayed you, to turn their every tongue lashing into fuel for your favor, and to elevate you so clearly that even those who believe the worst about you will be forced to watch God do the best in you. And yes, it will be public. Yes, it will be undeniable. And yes, even the one who tried to soil your name with whispers will be silenced, not by your revenge, but by your rise, because there is nothing more powerful than God, vindicating his child in front of every soul who misunderstood their journey. And this is not just a moment of betrayal. It is the unveiling of spiritual misalignment so that heaven can make room for divine partnership. And if you feel alone in this moment, if you feel exposed, if you feel like your trust was wasted, know this: Archangel Michael is watching, heaven is responding, and your next season will be so full of truth, favor, discernment, and divine protection that the very person who leaked your secrets will be left speechless when they see what God still chooses to do with your story. Now that heaven has exposed the source of the breach, now that Archangel Michael has pulled back the curtain on this quiet betrayal, you are being called not just to see it, but to respond in spiritual maturity, to elevate above offense, to walk the narrow path between confrontation and complete release. And this is where many fall, because betrayal touches the heart like fire touches dry wood. And the natural reaction is to burn everything down, to defend yourself, to cry out for justice in your own timing. But listen carefully. Heaven has already begun responding, not with the noise of vengeance, but with the quiet shifting of your surroundings, the sudden changes in energy, the people who once called often now falling strangely silent, the invitations that stop, the conversations that trail off when you enter the room. All of this is not punishment. It is pruning, and it hurts because you're still healing, but it is holy because it is setting you apart. And Archangel Michael says, the exposure was mercy, not malice, because you were about to walk into a season too sensitive for sabotage, too sacred for snakes hidden in familiar skins. And though it feels like you're losing people, what you're really doing is shedding dead weight, letting go of alliances that serve a past version of you, but cannot accompany the next. And God is removing them with surgical precision, not because you're unworthy of companionship, but because you're now too chosen for contamination. And I need you to understand that what they shared, those pieces of your life, your trauma, your testimony, they can gossip about it, twist it, laugh about it, but they can never carry it with the authority you do. They can never tell it right because it wasn't their pain. It wasn't their process, and what they don't realize is that the very things they're leaking are the blueprints to your blessing. The same stories they're mocking are the foundation of your mantle. And when God turns this around, and He will, their voices will be drowned out by the sound of your elevation. Because heaven doesn't just redeem, heaven reveals who is really for you by how people handle your brokenness. And Archangel Michael says their betrayal was necessary for you to finally accept the truth you've been sensing in your spirit for months, that the closeness you maintained was kept alive more by your hope than by their loyalty. And now the Father is protecting your purpose by forcing the separation you were too kind to initiate. And yes, it will feel like grief because even unfaithful connections still leave real wounds. But your heart will thank you later when you realize how many battles you avoided by allowing heaven to do the cutting. And Archangel Michael wants you to be still now, to not retaliate, to not air their secrets in return, because you are not like them. You are anointed, and your words carry weight. Your voice opens realms. Your silence holds thunder, and your restraint right now is more powerful than any confrontation ever could be. Because when you choose dignity over drama, heaven goes to war on your behalf, and the angels begin silencing every tongue, drying up every conversation, and dismantling every weapon that was formed in jealousy, masked as friendship. And so you must remember this betrayal is not a reflection of your failure to choose well, but a sign that your elevation is near. Because the enemy always sends distractions right before divine upgrades. And these leaks, these whispers, they are not ruining you. They are announcing you. And Archangel Michael says the enemy is now terrified because you saw it, because you stopped explaining yourself, because you stopped pouring into cracked vessels, and because you now realize your privacy is part of your power, and your silence is the sound of spiritual warfare working in your favor. And soon, God will lead you to new connections, people who honor your words, who guard your story like a treasure, who pray over what others only pretended to listen to. And these people will not drain you. They will discern you. And in their presence, you will feel safe again, because true covenant cannot be counterfeited, and you're not too much. You were just in the wrong room. And Archangel Michael says your gift, your calling, your light, it intimidated them. And that is why they leak your secrets, hoping that if they could weaken your reputation, they could slow your rise. But they underestimated the grace that covers you. They forgot that your story is in God's hands, and no earthly mouth can cancel a heavenly assignment. So grieve if you must, cry if you need to, but don't you dare shrink back. Don't you close your heart forever, because this exposure was not meant to harden you, but to heal you. And when all is said and done, you will look back and realize that the very betrayal that almost broke you actually built the bridge to your breakthrough. And Archangel Michael says to prepare, because the next phase of your life is coming with speed, with glory, and with divine partnerships forged not in gossip, but in God's glory, and nothing spoken against you will stand, because you are chosen, covered, and rising right on time. The time has come when heaven is no longer waiting for you to learn through subtle signs, for the whisperings of your spirit have already warned you again and again. Yet still, in your beautiful and merciful heart, you kept giving chances, still believing that the one you once trusted so deeply could come back around, could be redeemed in silence, could return to the sacred place of loyalty you once thought unbreakable. But Archangel Michael is sounding the trumpet now, not to condemn your softness, but to elevate your awareness, because you must now understand that what is happening around you is spiritual warfare disguised as drama, cloaked in familiarity, masked as concern, and the one who is leaking your secrets is not just playing a petty game of betrayal. They're unknowingly becoming a tool in the hands of darkness, attempting to assassinate your credibility through the venom of misused intimacy. And you, child of God, are too important in the divine plan to ignore what has already been exposed. And though you may feel tempted to ask why someone you loved so purely could twist your pain into entertainment, why they could share the pages of your private chapters as if your life were a story for their amusement, heaven wants you to understand that some hearts carry jealousy they never reveal, and that jealousy grows into betrayal when it sits in the presence of your resilience, because they watched you cry, watched you struggle, watched you pray when you had nothing, and when they thought you'd fall, they rejoiced silently. And when you stood anyway, when you kept rising, when you kept growing despite it all, their celebration of you turned into resentment of you. And so the same mouth that once encouraged you now leaks the very confessions it once comforted, not because you did anything wrong, but because they couldn't stand the fact that you survived what was meant to destroy you. And now your survival has made them feel exposed because their loyalty wasn't loyalty. It was convenience wrapped in false compassion. And the moment you became inconvenient to their ego, they began to unravel. They began to speak, to twist, to plant seeds of doubt in others so they wouldn't feel so small in your light. But what they didn't realize is that your secrets weren't your weakness. They were proof of your strength. And every word they've shared has now become a brick in the altar God is building to elevate you even higher, because heaven does not sit idly. When the chosen are mocked, and Archangel Michael is already sharpening swords of justice, already deploying angels to silence rooms where your name is spoken with defilement, and already rerouting your destiny so that no matter how they try to delay it, no force can deny it. And it's important that you don't retaliate, because your silence has become your armor, your discernment your defense, and your elevation will be your vindication. And yes, the betrayal hurts more when it comes from those you loved, those you prayed for, those you covered with your own spiritual authority. But let this be your confirmation that it was never about them. It was about your training, your refinement, your preparation for what's next, because God cannot place you in rooms of influence if you are still tethered to people who handle your name with carelessness. And so this exposure is not a loss. It is a lifting, a holy removal, a divine redirection of your circle. And what feels like isolation is actually insulation, heaven wrapping you in grace, shielding you from future attacks by removing every weak link now. And though they're still pretending to care, still texting with polite emojis, still watching your stories in silence while feeding yours to others behind closed doors, God is watching too. And his judgment is not loud, but it is final, and you will soon see them removed from your path entirely, not by your doing, but by divine separation that they cannot stop, and your peace will return. Your circle will be refined, your name will be protected, not because you beg for it, but because heaven declared it. And Archangel Michael says you're not to doubt the vision in your heart any longer. Those dreams of walking away, of detaching, of moving forward without explanation, those were divine instructions whispered through your intuition, and now you must obey, even if it leaves you walking alone for a while. Because in the silence of separation, your new strength will emerge, and your clarity will be restored, and God will surround you with voices who honor you, who pray with you, who intercede for your name in rooms you'll never walk into. And this betrayal, painful as it is, will become the very foundation on which your discernment is sharpened. Your authority is expanded, and your purpose is multiplied, because the devil meant it for evil, but God is using it for evidence. And your name is still safe in heaven's mouth, even if it has been mishandled in others, and very soon, sooner than you think. The very people who doubted you, who believed their gossip over your grace, will witness your rise, and it will silence every whisper. It will choke every rumor, and you will stand, not in revenge, but in radiant proof that no betrayal can bury what God has blessed. And Archangel Michael says, keep walking, keep praying, keep discerning, because what's next is too glorious to be distracted by what's already beneath you. And now, says the Lord through Archangel Michael, you have reached the turning point, the divine threshold where heaven no longer allows delay, no longer permits the cycles of hidden betrayal to continue unnoticed, for what was once veiled in politeness and masked with smiles has now been exposed under divine light. And though your heart aches, though your spirit trembles with the weight of disappointment, you must understand this was never meant to break you. It was allowed to awaken you. And what was whispered behind your back is now echoing in the courts of heaven, not as a condemnation of you, but as a testimony against those who chose dishonor after receiving your deepest truths. And God has heard every twisted version of your story they've repeated. He has seen every room they entered pretending to be harmless, pretending to care, only to release the sacred things you entrusted into careless air. But what they don't know is that those secrets were not just moments. They were covenant pieces, confessions that had heaven's fingerprints on them. And now that they've mishandled what God anointed, they're not just accountable to you, they're answerable to Him. And Archangel Michael says their time of invisible betrayal is ending because heaven does not sleep. And though you have been silent, the Spirit has been roaring on your behalf, shifting atmospheres, stirring convictions, drying up blessings from the very hands that tried to curse what they once claimed to love. And while they celebrate their cleverness, thinking their little leaks and subtle digs went unnoticed, the truth is God allowed them just enough rope to reveal their own hearts, because He is not mocked, and every seed planted in darkness will now grow into exposure. And while they hoped your silence was weakness, they will soon realize it was spiritual warfare disguised as stillness. Because what they thought was a delay in your breakthrough was actually God positioning you for protection, separating you from sabotage, purifying your path so that what comes next will never again be filtered through polluted intentions. And Archangel Michael says that a new table is being prepared for you, not in secret, not behind the curtain, but in the presence of every voice that ever tried to minimize your calling. And when you sit at that table, clothed in favor, surrounded by divine alignment, you will not rise in pride, but in quiet gratitude, because by then you will understand that their betrayal was not a reflection of your misjudgment. It was evidence of their incapacity to walk with someone chosen, and their hearts could not handle the weight of your purpose. So rather than confess their struggle, they released your secrets hoping to reduce your shine. But instead of destroying you, they have made it impossible to ignore your light. And now heaven is multiplying what they tried to subtract for every lie spoken. There's a new opportunity opening for every name they whispered yours to. There's a new room God is ushering you into. And while they remain stuck in cycles of comparison, you will soar into a future they will only watch from afar. Not because of revenge, but because of justice. And justice from heaven always looks like peace, elevation, and glory returned sevenfold. And God is saying through Michael, you are now entering a time where you no longer have to defend yourself. For your fruit will speak louder than their failure. Your anointing will shout louder than their accusations. And your growth will silence every voice that once misused your truth. And in this next chapter, your voice will carry a new weight, not just in public, but in private. You will sense things before they are spoken, feel hearts shift before words are exchanged, and discern motives before manipulation begins, because this betrayal was your final exam in discernment. And now you have graduated into a deeper level of spiritual authority, and though it cost you tears, though it took from you pieces of your heart, heaven is returning to you wisdom, discernment, and divine partnerships that cannot be shaken. And this time, you will not have to wonder if they're for you. You will know it in your spirit, because the people coming next will cover your name when you're not in the room, will pray over your wounds without posting about them, will celebrate your wins without secretly competing behind your back. And the circle ahead will be heaven sent, war, tested, and covenant rooted, and you will never again have to dilute your greatness to feel safe, because Archangel Michael says, what they leaked cannot limit you. What they said cannot stop you. What they revealed cannot ruin what God has declared. And while they remain entangled in the consequences of their dishonor, you will rise, not in bitterness, but in brilliance, not in revenge, but in revelation. And you will walk with a quiet power that makes demons tremble and angels rejoice. And your future, now unlocked by truth and protected by divine intervention, will shine brighter than ever before, because you did not retaliate, because you chose the high road, because you let heaven speak louder than your emotions. And now the reward is coming suddenly, powerfully, unmistakably. And those who once thought they could bury your voice with rumors will be silenced by the sound of your rising. And nothing, absolutely nothing, they did in secret can prevent what God is about to do in public. For your name is written in light, your destiny is sealed in fire, and your story is just beginning.